Hey, welcome to is it August already? August 22nd, 2025, Agile Awesome Product and AI SIG. I'm acting as the moderator today, a little bit different format than we typically do. This is our highly interactive, yet maybe not as populous because a lot of people are on summer vacation right now, but we just kind of make this more interactive. Hey, come and talk about what you want to talk about in AI, ask questions, topics, conversations. I think a few of us have brought something to show off today. But even if you haven't and you just want to ask questions, that's a great part of what we'll do today too. So um, I won't go through the normal slide that we have. We're looking for a September speaker right now. If you know somebody or you yourself have something to talk about, we have people in this room that have presented Agile Austin. There's three of us. So there's three of us that have done Agile Austin presentations, at least. I'm not actually sure about Tammy and some of the others. But we're a community organization, so if you have something to talk about, chances are other people are experiencing some of the same challenges and could learn from what you've learned. So that's how we do it here at Agile Austin. With that, I'll throw it out there and we can just start having a conversation. So, who'd like to kick us off with a presentation, a question, a comment? I'll open it up.
I want to go last
Ben,
because
ben,
I know
Ben's
you've
got
got.
Ben's got the filler. Ben can fill to the end. Well, let me start out with a question. Like, we all, I'm not sure where we're all from, different backgrounds. We're in different, at least parts of the United States, it seems. You know, what have your experiences been with the use of AI tools, tooling, in product or really sort of any kind of, I mean, what we do, I say we because I'm engineering, kind of mostly engineering. But even in engineering, we're trying to build the thing right, but we're also trying to build the right thing. So we want to build products that customers love as much as our counterparts in product do. So I'm curious what other folks are how they're benefiting from the use of AI in their roles, and any questions that they have. And it looks like we got John saying, "I'm just getting started with AI." So let me then pick on you, John. Like, it sounds like you're getting started. Cool. What are you getting started with, and how's it going?
Yeah, my background's being a front-end developer and trying to think about maybe moving into a little bit of project management. And along the way was like, all right, I still need to learn React and probably still need to focus on front-end development and figured AI would be a good thing to learn while I'm unemployed. Um, Really just getting started. I downloaded Cursor the other day, GitHub AI. I've been using that a little bit here and there, but nothing too crazy. I was gonna start on projects later on next week now that I've actually like sat down and starting to learn about vibe coding and stuff like that.
Cool.
Which I agree, Ben, vibe coding is kind of a horrible word, but it kind of just feels like this like hippie vibe with it, I think. That's like, oh, we'll
Mhm.
just write code for you. It's all good. Let the machines take over the world. Yay. It's that kind of feeling is how I have with AI right now.
It's interesting, John, as you're talking about learning something new. You're talking about Cursor, which is great. Everybody's pretty excited about Cursor and the ability to use that. Because you had talked about moving to React, is that right? Did you say that, like
Yes.
trying to learn about React? And
Yeah.
and I found there's an infinite amount of use in like AI or large language models, specifically generative AI, to help me learn about things. Like, have you?
Not I've used it a little bit to help me out with like, let me do some basic UI UX research. Let me learn about accessibility because I'm getting to certain points with front-end development where you just can't find that information on Stack Exchange, where you're like, hey, I need to go a little bit deeper than this.
Mm,
But some of these articles are then too deep. So I kind of feel that AI is this nice in between to help me
mhm,
out with certain things. But like, I figured out like, with accessibility, it's like, hey, how do I make this more accessible? Oh, that's great. But like, I've never heard this before. And now I really need another expert to confirm what you're suggesting that I do. So, I still feel like I need an expert there to kind of fill in the gaps and ensure that I'm learning the correct thing. My big fear is, hey, I'm going to pull up this like little React project using Cursor, and it's going to teach me React all the wrong way
Right.
because I don't know any better, and I did that earlier with jQuery and ActionScript back in the day.
Oh,
So,
wow. Query.
it's all fun trying to learn something new, but you can only get so far on your own. But AI has been a great help.
That's neat. Have you just one more question because I'm
Yeah.
fascinated about how other people learn. Are you using any sort of prompts to help you? Because I think that's the risk is having the I don't know what you want to use it, idiot savant or something like it knows a lot, but it might not understand. It doesn't have a lot of wisdom, right? Because it can't, but it's a big predictability engine. But I think some of the way that people prompt, like assume that I am a person that is a senior developer, developer UI, and have never done this before. Like, has any of that? Have you tried any of that to see if that helps eliminate the? I don't know.
It's yeah, and it's funny because moving into project management, I've been doing a lot of rewriting my resume with AI into a project manager role, and it's very
Oh,
interesting to see what it comes up with and the bullshit that it creates for me.
right.
Just straight up, where I'm like, I didn't mention this at all in my resume. I don't know where you got this from. But I am learning that the better prompts you have, the better response you get. But it's just like doing a Google search. If you're good at Google searches, you're going to be good at AI prompts.
Yeah.
Um, and I also think that it has to do with like, again, it is kind of a silly tool that you're using. It doesn't really know everything that you're going for. So yeah, the
Right.
better that you're like, hey, I am a UI developer searching for accessibility with area roles in the WCAG 2.1 compliance.
Mm,
Um, you know, and it's interesting getting different results back as well with different prompts.
right.
And it's also interesting getting just code back that is wrong, where it's
Mm,
like, did you read the documentation? Because you're telling me that you did, but you're showing me the wrong keywords.
mm.
So it's very interesting to be helped and then hindered by it.
Yeah, yeah. What just final thing, just I'll probably ask this as long as I'm a moderator, I'll ask each person like what are the tools or what are the models that you're using for all this just so like people might be interested.
Yeah,
Or
currently
curse.
so far, it's just been ChatGPT and then
Yeah,
GitHub AI, the chat, whatever it's called. I am venturing off into Claude next week, and
right.
let's see, I did find like this other resume builder thing on ChatGPT that I'm going to start looking at called, just a second, Resume Builder by SkillUp or something,
Okay.
by Skill Upper. I figure I'll give that a shot just because resumes are resumes. They're easy to
Right.
get now.
It's interesting with all the training data. I was coming up with some I'm an engineering manager type stuff, like lots of human beings that I'm in service to. And we were talking about like how we write, the dreaded performance review. And 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 even coming up with like career ladders and job descriptions. This was like 2 years ago, so quite a different world. And we were talking about this, and some people had like generated some things like of a career ladder or job descriptions. And because it has all been trained, there's so much bad training out there. So if you look at it, like there's a lot of data, but it's not good. And I'm like, when you look at job descriptions, I'm like, they like all the job descriptions have like nice to haves. And like many of us have learned, like you don't put nice to haves in the job descriptions because there's certain people that should apply, but then they don't apply because they feel like they don't have it, right? Like there's different psychological reasons or whatever the case may be. And it's like you're excluding part of your people who could come in and work for you because like they'll just not apply to this thing. And most people say like I'm not gonna this is just one example. I'm not gonna put nice to haves on it because I have a job. These are the requirements, right? And I'm an interview for these requirements as opposed to
Mhm.
nebulous nice to haves. But because so many jobs out there have nice to haves on it. It's like that's what it will do because statistically, probabilistically, that should be part of the job description. Um, and it's like we're actually trying to move away from that. So like that is one of those things. Like just because there's a lot of people doing it, that might not be the right or at that time, that moment when it was trained on all that data, because the way they work today, as soon as you have a model, like it's done. It doesn't like get better. It's like I have my model, it's this llama thing or whatever the version of whatever the thing is, GPT-5 or whatever. It's like then it stops kind of thing, right? So anyway, it is kind of like you have to, I almost do a meta thinking about I'm trying to use AI to help me do a thing. And so much of the information, back to your point about Google, is actually not that great. So the results I'm going to get in this particular area are not that great. But if it's like AI research, probably most of the information that's training on paper research papers and things like that are probably good because there hasn't been, it's mostly people that are in the industry that are like building out models and talking about it very scientific. So it's pretty good. So that was
Yeah.
cool, John. Um, great. Um, what else? That was a great um, example.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think when it comes to the prompts, like that's almost the most important thing, right? Is writing the right prompts. So I'm going to put a, a web extension I found called Prompter.
Ooh, cool.
What it does is you write your very, hey, I need to understand, like I'm just like typing stuff, right? And then it takes it and makes it into a better prompt and adds a lot more detail. And so I find that to be pretty good for me. I also use another one from DocSpot, which is pretty good too. But this one's nice because it literally you click the button on the Chat GPT page. It used to work on Perplexity, but it
Mm,
doesn't for some reason now, which annoys me.
yeah.
Um, but it will then take that prompt and actually just rewrite it right in the field, and then you just hit
Wow.
because yeah, I was too struggling with some of these prompts and because I do think there's a lot of difference between how you write in Google. Google is like I think very consumer super focused, right? Um, and I think like some of these are not as much about trying to sell you stuff, right? Like when you write a prompt about you want to buy something, you don't get hit with a bunch of ads right at the top to where you can go buy it. So I think that's one of the differences. Um, but yeah, that's just something I put out there. If you guys, there's probably other ones too. So if somebody else has a different type of one that they're using, I'd love to understand that because that whole prompt engineering is a whole process unto itself, right?
Yeah.
So that's been one thing. I guess, in terms of other stuff, like, um, I use Chat GPT and I do have some of the custom GPTs. I think, John, you mentioned like one. I have a resume builder that I just downloaded. It was just for product managers, so it helps product
Mhm.
managers, right? So that's a cool one. And then, but I really been use a lot more Perplexity.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any Perplexity fans here, but yeah, it's pretty amazing, and the differences between the two. But I'm curious though. I've been playing around with I have subscriptions to both, right? And so I'm just curious though. How are you guys using any of the? And you can tell me to shut up, Matt, if you want to go different direction. But I was just curious how you guys if you guys are using any AI, the agents that Chat GPT has. I think that just came out with GPT-5. Is that? I can't
Hmm.
remember if that's
That's
right,
right.
but those are really look amazing, and there's been some really cool stuff. But I was just curious if anybody else has used any of those, the agent feature, where it goes off and does stuff kind of on its own, really, without interaction.
I haven't, but I am a Perplexity user because I'm an Xfinity subscriber and they were doing like a free pro subscription. So that's the only one I have a subscription to. They did
You got
just
a free
email me that
prescription?
they have Comment now, which is their own browser, which kind of
Yep.
does that. Yeah. So I just downloaded that and I haven't
Yep.
played around with it at all yet. So it looks like potentially intriguing. I haven't had a lot of success. I mean, Perplexity is good for just like a general Google kind of search, I guess, but specific use cases for Perplexity, I've only tried like in personal and for vacation planning and stuff, and it did not succeed at all. It did not understand how to create an itinerary or distances between locations or hours that they were open or anything. So I haven't had a lot of success in like personal or in my role as an agile coach and scrum master with using AI, because most of the things I'm looking for are like Jira admin. How do I set this up? And Jira's admin panel has changed its UI so many times, it will hallucinate options and buttons that don't even exist. Kind of. But I know that the developers that I worked with were using, had some success using ChatGPT and Claude Code. And then we had started to work on creating our own internal LLM with Quen. It's probably the best model for coding. That was open source. But
Catherine, did you say you got the Perplexity Pro through Lenny's newsletter?
no, Xfinity, but
Oh,
Lenny's newsletter I know does have it. Yeah.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
subscribed to his podcast too. Yeah.
yeah. I did that subscription. Gosh, it's coming up on a year ago.
Mm.
Lenny's newsletter. If you haven't read that, is and I'm primarily in engineering, but Lenny's an amazing.
It's such a good podcast, like
So
for
good.
anyone, honestly, in tech. Yeah.
All the content there is just amazing. And then if you
Yeah.
subscribe, then you got this bundle of things about a year ago, and it was like Perplexity Pro was one of them. I think it's still there. I think they expanded the
Yeah, I think there's a couple other, but I can't remember what they are off the top of my head.
but you only get it for the first year.
Yeah.
You don't continue to get it, so I'm gonna have to make a choice like within the next month. Like, and I think I'm gonna keep paying for Perplexity Pro. Back to your comment, Catherine, and maybe Ross too. They did launch this Comet browser, and it was only available for the ultra premium subscriber. There's a pro, and then there's like a pay
Oh, Matt.
hundreds of dollars. Are you on that, Ross?
No, I'm not on. If that one, the max one's $200 a month.
Yeah,
Uh,
Oh,
it's
they
quite
let me download it as just like the regular pro.
right. And
oh, okay. Oh, the browser. I
Yeah.
think.
it's a browser. There's a browser, but then it's got agentic features if you are either the Uber whatever subscriber or if you did the wait list. And then I did the wait list, and so theoretically I'm entitled to the agentic features of Comet. And to say that it didn't work is somewhat of an understatement. I should say it did things. Were those things right? But those things that are like it was trying to do, it looked neat in the demos and things like that. But it's like calendaring is something I'm have a lot of people interactions and things like that, cross organizational, cross functional thing. Some of the hardest things I ever do is calendaring. And I live in Seattle area, and I know some of the folks over at Microsoft, and I've just talked to them saying, man, Copilot and all these things, all I really wanted to do is be able to schedule a meeting. And it would just, this was like 2 years ago, and it wasn't doing it. And I sat there, I was camping. There's my phone just to do the prop, right? And I was like, we were sitting camping at Larrabee State Park, which is near Bellingham. And I was like showing this guy, I'm like, I'm literally just trying to say, what is my free time on Monday? And it was making it all up. It was, I mean, it was for the week, and then it started right, and then it started getting really, really wrong. So of course we're tech guys and camping and playing with our silly phones and AI. And it's like he's sitting there like putting in tickets and stuff to the team. And I was like, I just needed to schedule meetings. But I'm hopeful, Catherine, you're also talking about like vacation planning, home things, like all the kind of family stuff that I have. I've got a wife and 2 kids and stuff like that. So we have each other. And I'm like, these are some very basic things that I want to do. Like my wife's name is Deepa. I was like, schedule something with Deepa and I to go out on, some time together or something when we're both free. And I just couldn't do it. I was just like, and it had Chrome open and I like logged in and all these things, and it made it up. It was like she wasn't free. I wasn't free. But it's like there's the calendar invite. So but I want it to work. I really do.
Yeah.
I really want Comet and agentic AI, like you're saying, Ross. I think there are certain areas where it works a lot better. Some of these other things are I haven't had great experience with it quite yet.
Yeah, I have not tried in full earnest the agent piece, the new agent piece of ChatGPT. I've
Right.
played around with it. doing just to kind of see. But it is cool. It's actually like going to a website, looking. It asks you for your login, so you can take over if you need to log in. I was like,
What was it?
okay, it's headed in the right direction, right? Like
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. I don't know if that's only if you're. I don't know if that's actually only if you're a subscriber or not. I can't actually remember if that agent. But yeah, but it's pretty cool. Perplex the comment I do like, but for summarizing like the pages you're on and things like that. But it's not quite as powerful as like when you're talking to Perplexity directly.
Mm.
Like you can't do an attachment to say, what does this compare to this document that I have? You have to go to the main, back to the main page. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Alan, welcome. I noticed you joined. I know you've been at some of these sessions before. We're just talking right now about problems that you're trying to solve, how you're using AI. If you'd like to share, please do. If not, not a requirement. Or questions you might have for the group assembled here.
I've been none of the above. I'm eavesdropping, learning as I go. I really don't do much with AI, but I see the potential there and I'm curious. So I like listening to what other people are doing with it to get ideas.
Cool.
I've been playing around with and make.com.
What was it? Did you say Mint? M-I-N-T?
No, Replit.
Oh, Replit.
Right. And then make.com, M-A-K-E. Yeah, so make.com is more for the integrations, but I'm just now beginning. I haven't really gotten into it as much.
Yeah. And sorry, is your name RG? Like just so I can address you right?
It's Rapali, but I go by RG.
RG, cool. RG, what's your role in general? Like, what do you do? Like, what are you using the AI for? Like,
No, so work, I'm a software engineering manager.
software. Okay.
Yeah, so, but this is just personal, just kind of to get into it and kind of explore what's out there and kind of, I don't do any development anymore in my day to day, but I just wanted to kind of keep up and see what's out there and how things work.
Right on. Thanks, RG.
So do you use Replit for like prompt generation? That kind of popped up when I went to the page, or do you use it for other things?
No, so with Replit, you can create whole apps just with a prompt, like vibe coding, basically. It's the essence of vibe coding. So you just give it a prompt, create an app that does blah, 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 and then it'll go step by step and then actually show you a preview and then generate the app for you and like a prototype version and so on. A lot of product managers use it.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I haven't played around with it. Are they just basically for like prototypes or proof of concept, or are they actually, like scalable, like usable?
I would say more proof of concepts, and that's the scary thing about all these apps. It's like I don't know how many of them are production ready, especially with the keeping the security concerns in mind.
Yeah. So I feel like there's a huge disconnect, especially if you like, I honestly don't read much on LinkedIn anymore because it just depresses me a little bit. But I'll just see people like CEOs of companies being like, hey, we fired 75% of our engineers, and this 18-year-old developer is doing 40,000 lines of code a day with Cursor. I'm like, you're like, how do you see that as a good thing? That to me is just a massive liability and a disaster waiting to happen, but I feel like the product and C-suite side is seeing one thing, like, oh, we're just able to deliver all these things immediately, and like Replit equals a production worthy app. And on my side, I'm always like, no, that's not, like, I have to be the person to be like, no, that's not how it works. We can't, like, that's not releasable, that's not scalable, that's not meeting our security standards and all of that. And I feel like it's a really big gap between the technical side and the sales product, kind of non-technical side.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's kind of scary because, instead of writing 10 lines of code, it writes hundreds of lines of code. That's kind of hard to decipher and see what's going on. And so I think that's going to be another job that's like people will start hiring people to optimize the code generated through vibe coding and kind of make it more efficient and usable.
Hey, they might bring back our quality assurance engineers.
It's
Well,
fascinating because like so many of these, where's my Agile Austin mug from 15 years ago? We had a lot of sponsors that back, I want to say it was, yeah, it was 15 years ago. That is so crazy. It was more than 15 years ago. Um, we had sponsors and they're not around anymore, but they were, I'm trying to remember, Ben, what they were called. Like there were some of them, but it seemed like it was like all this automatic code generation, right? I mean, and you can go back to like Rational Rows and the UML and all these kinds of stuff if you go like sort of even farther back. But there were these kind of like like what you see is what you get, like sort of drag and droppable, and I create my application, and then like you don't need developers anymore, which I think people started saying back in COBOL systems, like you don't need developers anymore because you got like these business folks can just go write up an application. And as it turned out, like that wasn't actually the case, and it wasn't the case then, wasn't the case because all those guys that were making all these products who were great sponsors of Agile Awesome, thank you very much for all the money. Like they 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 just kind of went away. Like they're not there anymore. And I'm curious with to all your to RG and Catherine, like and Ben, like if you build these applications and you don't really know what's in there, it won't take long to like sort of get to the the end of like things going wrong, and then it's like if any of you have ever been in like legacy software development or software maintenance, which is kind of almost everybody because everything becomes legacy after, like a few years, especially if it's valuable. And you're like, what even was this thing? How did this thing even work? And I would go to I was in Austin, a lot of startups, and we would get acquired, and then I'd help other companies. There was one in Austin called NetQS that some of you guys might remember. And then after they became really big and successful, then they got acquired by CA Technologies, and my company Hyperformix did, and we were all together, and we're like, all right, how are we going to refactor some of this NetQS code? Because it was like network engineers built this like really cool product, but it was network engineers, not software engineers. And so you looked at these classes that had like, and I was like, just put unit testing. We're all doing unit testing now. And like, isn't it great? And you can do all this automated testing. And the guys were like, the team was showing me, um, like, it's this one class has 10,000 lines in it. Like, Matt, it's got all this branching logic. It's got all this kind of stuff in one class. And I was just like, oh yeah, I don't think you can. like we don't have time. It was the private equity of the day. It was CA Technologies or BMC or IBM that did all these acquisitions and roll-ups, and they're like, they're not looking to like rewrite any of these applications. They got an annuity revenue stream. They got a customer. They're not going to have a bunch of engineers rewrite these things. So it could be interesting if we get to like a proliferation of this vibe coded stuff that gets out there, and then like somewhat of a crisis that it's like but we don't know what it's doing. Talk about security, talk about AI ethics and responsibility. If you're outside the United States, maybe even inside the United States, there's companies are demanding responsible use of AI ethics and all those kinds of stuff. There's new standards, there's ISO standards. I work at a pretty large company called ConnectWise, and I won't tell you the vendor we're onboarding, pretty popular vendor. And it's like, we said we can't do it because they don't have an AI responsibility statement. Like this is like this company, which is you'd know the name of it. It's like it doesn't have an AI responsibility statement. And we're saying it's 2025. Like you got to have this because you have all these AI features, but it represents a material risk to the company to use it. So we're saying no right now. So it's a
You go into Chat GPT and write an AI responsibility statement, and 5 minutes, 2 minutes later, boom, here you go.
You see, but like one thing I'm concerned about, Catherine mentioned security, but it's also like the brand, is it
mm,
able to write in your brand? Does it have that same voice? And even writing code, there's, lint code, like linters to make
right.
sure that you're writing responsible code. But like at what point can, all of these AI engines actually take our legacy system and really interact with it and write good code for it? I don't think that we're there yet. I don't think it's smart enough to really help us
I mean,
on production.
frankly, I don't
Yeah,
think they
but
can do it greenfield, let alone brownfield. Like they can't write good scalable code
Yeah,
even for
it's
a new
not there yet.
application.
Like, I just don't see it being there yet. Where like we still need humans to do the majority of stuff. Where I think AI is great for like, I need help writing a carousel. Do
Mm,
this, this, and this. Great.
hey,
once you have to incorporate that carousel with this API in the back end, maybe there might be some issues where it's like, but really it's like how much can we like, I don't know, I feel like humans write better code than computers at times.
But I think the challenge is that a lot of non-tech people are bypassing the tech people to
Mm.
write quote unquote apps themselves. And so they're not even aware of these considerations, and they're like, "Oh, look, I have an app created for me." Did you
And
guys
it,
hear about Base 44?
Mm-mm.
No,
It's also like another Replit,
mm,
basically a platform where you can create your own apps just with prompting, like vibe coding.
mm,
And it was created, and in 6 months after it was created, it sold for 88 million to
all right.
Wix. So
All right.
now, yeah, Wix acquired it. And so
Mhm.
that's an offering by Wix now, which is, they do these instant websites or
Mm.
like e-commerce websites and things like that.
And I hate to sound cynical, but it seems like this is like AI is great for like the VC tech bro startup world where all you care about is like selling your startup as quickly as possible for the highest amount of money and not caring about longevity and stuff. But I feel like this is kind of a trend in our society right now where we only care about the short term and we're not looking at sustainability or long-term effects of things. And this is just kind of magnifying that.
Yeah, I think part of the thing is like CEOs and the C-suite people are getting hit with like, you do you have AI in your products? Why don't you have AI in your products? What are we doing in AI? When you have guys like Mark Benioff at Salesforce saying, we've cut 75% of our support staff, and now everything's run off of AI. Um, if you're at that C level, it's always about cost, right? So like Windsurf or Cursor or any of these programs, right? If they think, oh man, we can go from a group of 50 down to 15, think about the savings we'll have, So I think that's kind of what's driving part of it at the enterprise level is like, how can we downsize people and replace it with AI? And right now, I think customer support is like one of those areas where it's probably getting hit the hardest, based off what I've seen. But yeah, it's all over. But you're right. I mean, you go build an app and sell it 6 months later, but is it still going to work in 6 months after that? Because does it scale? Does it do all the things you need it to do? And that's where I think, it becomes a little bit trickier, right? When you start trying to scale some of these things beyond just, 1, 2, 4, 5 clients, right? But the responsibility stuff, I think, is going to become a much bigger deal
Yeah.
because that responsibility and all that kind of stuff is always kind of on the back end of these types of things, right? We get excited and we kind of forget about all that, and then we're like, oh yeah, we do need to have responsibility. Are you SOC 2 compliant? Are you these types of things, which a lot of these companies, like you said, these startups, like they SOC who do we need to SOC? What is it? So I think that's kind of the thing that's going to catch up a little bit over time with it.
I think one of the things to add something here, like you hear about these companies, like these sort of high flying, and you hear a lot about things like you probably still might remember NFTs. When there's speculation, logic tends to go out the window. And there's probably here's the model that I have in my head. You've got things that are sort of speculative now, a lot less than there was when money was sort of free, like zero interest rate from the government and all that kind of stuff, right? Sort of certainly in that time leading up to 2022. So a lot of people were speculating. What you don't hear that much about, and I can tell you part of my story, is going from a company here in Seattle. I don't know if you'd call it a startup. It was a 12-year-old company, small company. We just got acquired by a relatively large company, ConnectWise, backed by private equity, Thoma Bravo. And as part of that due diligence effort, we actually had one of our Agile product and AI SIG speakers, Matt Van Italy, a couple of months ago. He was the person that I worked with on the due diligence side. Like he was coming and looking at all the code we had, all of our mechanisms, everything. He was looking at that, his company, it's called SEMA, S-E-M-A. That's what they do. And they take a look at your code and they look at them. He's using AI to look at the code that you have. And we had been around for a long time. So we had a lot of lines of code. And he did an analysis like how much of this is AI generated, like what is the quality of it based on that. He's got some heuristics and algorithms that he's built and his team have built. And it was good. Like his analysis was good. I was like, yep, that's right. That's right on. And that was an artifact. I have it. I won't show it. That was an artifact that was presented to the acquiring company and their investors, and that was used in the valuation of my company and like used as an artifact to do that because these private equity firms they're not dumb. Like they're like, I'm not going to buy something for X hundreds of millions of dollars and then just have it all fall apart. And
Right.
I think this is what now he does this all the time. Like you don't hear a lot about this, right? Because that's not super like when things are sort of going the way that they're supposed to, like you don't hear about them. But like this one kind of startup that you're like, oh my gosh, these guys vibe coded this thing and they got acquired for $100 million or something like that. You'll hear about it because it's sort of like spectacular. But I think it's better than, and I don't know that it's trending to worse. I think we just sort of hear these things that are out there. And I'm just saying this is my one lived example that I can tell you. And I talked to Matt and he's like, yeah, I do this for all of the companies and I do all these kinds of things. I'm like, oh, okay, that's very reasonable that you would do that. I don't know, Wix or Google might just sort of on a whim do kind of something, but like most of the companies in the world are trying not to lose their investors' money or their business when they do all these kinds of things. And I think back to the SOC or ISO and all those kinds of things. Those compliance bits are like supposed to help. It's not just compliance for compliance sake. Because we actually had Elena, who is part of our auditing. Because I keep putting all the people I work with, all our ISO and SOC audits and all those kinds of stuff. She came to and she's now talking about, especially in Europe for all the AI use and responsibility and all that kind of stuff. So she was on her. There's a recording from a couple months back where she joined us too. So the industry is actually, I think, moving in the right direction, but we do hear about these sort of fanciful things. So.
And one of the questions is, I think from time immemorial, you've had programmers essentially say, we're using C, we're using COBOL, things like that, essentially close to the bare metal. And we've been abstracting out now for ages, and everybody's been predicting doom for ages. So the question is the person on the sidewalk with the sign predicting doom, are they right today or are they not? And I have no idea. My crystal ball is extremely cloudy on all of this, but I just do know that every every cult that has predicted the end of the world has so far been wrong. So
they'll be right eventually.
One day one of them will be right, maybe. So, anyways,
I think it's both, right? I mean, I think there are things like Catherine and RG are like bringing up, like those things are absolutely happening, like, and they're absolutely not the right thing. And to your point, Catherine, I think you were talking about LinkedIn, and it's almost like another story is like when I was one company that got acquired by another company, and I was the guy that helped bring Agile. This is 2009. It's like, we need Agile, we need Agile. And I was like, I don't know that you really need Agile. We just need things to not be ridiculous, I guess was my point. And I was like, okay, sure, we can do Scrum and we can do all these kinds of things. It's fine. But like, really, it was the business sort of like having reasonable and rational expectations and engineering, in this case, engineering, sort of going back and saying, this is the way that it needs to be. And then once we did that, I mean, it was sort of wrapped in Scrum or Agile or something. But I was in a board meeting and there were all these like people that were on boards of other boards are like, oh, I've got 5 companies in my portfolio that are agile. I've got 20 in my portfolio that are agile. And like the 2009, right? It's a different time. So they're all like comparing who's got the most agile, which I think back to this sort of like LinkedIn-y kind of thing. You're like, how many people have you gotten rid of? Like 75,000, 25,000. Have you really gotten rid of those? Did that really happen? Is that really the reason that you did it? Maybe. Maybe. Maybe there's another story at play. And it's just sort of like comparing who's got the most AI-ness of their company. So you just kind of never really know what's behind the scenes.
Yeah, I do. I'm glad to hear that there are people obviously doing due diligence and stuff. We never really hear about that because obviously social media and news, like you hear the most sensational things like the
That's right.
startups that are vibe coded that get acquired for millions of dollars. But I do think there's I want the buzziness to die down of AI, just like with Scrum, like, and the reason that Agile and Scrum got a bad name was everyone just wanted, like, suddenly was told, especially during the pandemic, like, hey, we need to be Agile. And then they go and hire a bunch of brand new Scrum masters with no experience to like implement safe on their company. And they don't actually do anything. And aside from Agile theater, and then 2 years later, they decide there are no Scrum master jobs because everyone thinks Agile failed, you
Right.
know?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, it's sad. It was
yeah.
very sad. I agree. You had people that were really good, and then it was like the whole concept of like really change management, which agile coaches and all these kinds of people that were really good at change management. And what we all need, I think, is, I mean, things are moving and then they're changing even faster. And you got to keep everybody together as you go through all this change. I mean, that is agile responsiveness to change, right? And it's like these were people that were really good at helping, like, I don't know, match the impedance mismatch, to use an audio term. I'm like, or I don't know, these things that spin at different cycles. Like, how do you get them to all mesh together? Yeah.
Well, and what comes out of a boom cycle or out of a bust cycle? Usually, the next boom. So, in other words, Matt, you were around, and maybe a few of us were around for the dot-com bust.
Right.
You might remember such luminous stars like Garden.com or Webvan. You
Pets.com.
So, but out of that was born a lot of the e-commerce stuff that, fills our lives today. And
Right.
Matt, you worked at Amazon, and just how dominant globally that has become. But a lot of that would not have been possible without all of the VC money essentially
Speculation.
going up into flames. And
Yeah.
I think something similar is probably going to play out with AI, where we're going to have a pretty big disaster on our hands for a period of time. But out of that will come the concepts that win and provide a competitive advantage for companies.
Yeah.
And companies are really struggling right now to understand what that competitive advantage might be. So
That's
it's
right.
usually a blunt target of I use this type of AI tool for this amount of time in my daily tasks. And now I am rewarded as an employee because I do those types of things. I'm seeing a lot of that now happen across different companies. And so, but with that blunt instrument comes people either misusing or misjudging how to use. And you're going to see a lot of companies start to go, I think, haywire as a result. But out of that will come the slice that will dominate the culture from here on out, probably. So the next Mark Zuckerberg is probably in some dorm at some college right now as we speak. So, hi.
Yep. Yeah, and you can even like go back to, since I'm an 80s kid, like in Cold War, like so much of the internet was designed as the DARPANET to launch nuclear missiles, right? Like if one gets taken out, one city gets taken out, I can still launch all my nukes. Like that was the whole like internet. Like that. And so there was like this massive buildup during Cold War, which ended in about 1989 through 1991. And like, gosh, people at IBM lost their jobs for the first time. It was job for life, all those kinds of things. And like, I wasn't working at the time, but I saw it. But all those technologies that were developed, like infrared remote controls, like networking, like ubiquitous networking, it's just like all the stuff came out of like unbridled scientific research for military purposes. It was like, and here we're all using, my son, is 11, like looks at this phone. It's like, yeah, it's just a phone. I'm like, do you understand that I had a Commodore 64 with a 1200 baud modem, and I was like the coolest. Well, no, I was not the coolest kid by any means. But anyway, with the nerds, I was the coolest kid because I had like the fastest modem, right? Like, and I could go 1.2 kilobits per second. Oh my God. So it really is, it's sort of fascinating hangs together. Hey, did we want to do, I've got just like a little mini presentation of a book I heard about, and then maybe Ben can talk about, show off maybe
Eh,
one thing.
No, we're coming
No?
close to time, so let's just do
All right.
yours.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you, I think this dovetails. I'm only bringing this up because I think it dovetails kind of nicely into the conversation that we had. So I heard about this book called The AI-Driven Leader. We actually have Ned Horvath here, who's the Agile Awesome Book Club, maybe outgoing for the first time in how many years, Ned? Oh, I heard that you're not going to be leading the book club anymore. But anyway, Ned, very glad to have you here. AI-Driven Leader. Kind of it's really more of like an executive like leadershipy strategy book and less of like go and do like AI technical bits. But the thing that I really liked about it, it's sort of for executives. So if you're like, what are the executives reading? And I don't know, maybe they're reading this, maybe not, but they're saying 100% said AI is the future. 100% said their company would adopt AI, and it said less than 5% have done anything about it, which is like lots of people talking, few of them know. And I thought that was kind of an interesting concept. I highlighted that. And this was a really good, the author's main purpose, I should just turn off my background blur, but he's kind of like saying, you're the thought leader, and I think this extends to everybody, and you've got this like little light bulb, and AI is your thought partner. And this is how I've used AI, because it's kind of like I'm thinking of myself as the AI, or I'm like a thought leader. I need to do something, and I want to like actually really come up with a promotion process that really is fair and inclusive of all the kinds of things, and like actually says like, anyway, like it should be something that really works and is based on people's contributions as opposed to a bunch of skills or something like that, with real evidence. And like actually the natural inclination is for people to bring each other up and help them grow and all that kind of stuff. And like as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, think of AI as your thought partner. Like, and so you can, when you're generating ideas, they're saying, you can use AI as your thought partner. I like Perplexity for this. And like, he urged you to like write a sticky and put on your desk. Like anytime you try to do something in this class of things, you don't say, can AI do this? But can AI help me do this? And I thought that was kind of a powerful idea to, and like resonated with me at least, saying like, yeah, how could AI help me? Because I can do all this stuff. I can do all this research. I can stitch all these ideas together. But some of this stuff, I know I can, but I don't need to do this particular part of it. Like I don't need to synthesize it in this way. Like the ideas are happening in my head, like spitting it out so somebody else can sort of say, poke air holes at it, right? Like say, hey, this is my idea. And then like that's the faster kind of piece of it. Um, so that was kind of an interesting bit. He had this, it's called CRIT, Framework for Strategic Thinking, CRIT. So this is a prompt engineering thing. So context, describe the context of the problem or opportunity you're trying to facing and give lots of context. Role, your role is to act as a, so when you're writing a prompt, like here's the context of what I'm doing. Here's your role, or here's my role. I'm a VP of engineering at a company, blah, 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 blah. And then, sorry, CRI. I'm going to come up with in a second. I should remember what this is. Context, role. I just had it. Interview. This was kind of cool. Interview me. Ask me one question at a time, up to 3 questions to gain more context. So as you're like doing this prompt, you're like encouraging it to ask you more questions, which I've never heard anybody else talk about, using a prompt and saying, I'm telling you to ask me questions to get more context, and then the task you want to complete. So the context, describe the problem. This is the thing that I'm trying to do. Here's who I am. Here's my role. Interview me for more information on the context, and then give me the task. And that's the prompt. So CRIT. I thought that was a pretty interesting perspective. The whole thing is like, if you don't know how to use AI, ask it to tell you, hey, I'm a VP of engineering trying to do this. What are the things I should know about AI? Like having it interview you was like a new concept. I don't know if my mind was blown, but I thought it was like pretty cool. The other bits that were in here, and I'll end on this in a second, is like you can use it. Think about AI. There were 3 roles: the interviewer, Ask AI to interview you to gather the information in your head, to clarify your thinking. The communicator, engage AI to turn complex ideas into simple, powerful messages. And the challenger, and this is the one I liked the most, and upload your document or your idea or whatever into your AI tool of choice. They don't have any recommendations. They don't sell tools. And said, ask it to challenge your assumptions. And like sometimes you call it devil's advocate. At Amazon, one of the leadership principles was leaders seek to disconfirm their beliefs. So that's like the whole like document narrative culture and things like that, which I think is a really good idea. It's like, here's my idea. I want somebody to disconfirm my beliefs. I don't want to convince you. I want you to poke holes in it. And having AI do that, just from a strategic thinking, because I think it was Catherine maybe, or you all were talking about like long term, like how do you think long term? And this was really talking about strategy and thinking in strategic ways, which we all should be doing, right? Like that's human, like we can do short term, but we're like probably better when we start thinking long term. And that's something that AI cannot be like, I don't know that you never say never, I suppose, but can AI ever be a strategic thinker? Certainly not large language generative AI models. Like that, it literally doesn't do that. It does predictions based on things that it already knows. So anyway, that's my mini session. The book is AI Driven Leader. It's a pretty easy read, and I think you could read it in I don't know, 6 hours or something on Audible if you want to. But I started doing that. I started doing the thing about having it ask me questions, which I thought was like, ooh, that's a cool move. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's pretty interesting. I'm definitely going to check it out.
Yeah. And Ned, is it true that Agile Awesome is looking for a new leader of the Agile Awesome book club? Let's see if he's on. Oh, he's going to be on mute. But there is an Agile Awesome book club, which I used to go to regularly. And that could be an Agile Awesome book club where if you read the book and you attend up to N sessions, I don't know what it was, 2 or 3, you get the book for free. Because we had all this.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to get off mute here.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm stepping away because I'm spending all my time playing with AI tools for writing code. So that is not to say I won't participate in the book club or read the book if it's of interest to me, but fewer books are of interest to me that are not directly tied to becoming a better programmer again at my advanced age. So yeah, we're looking for someone to replace me in that role.
Ned, I think you've been the longest of all the Agile Awesome volunteer groups. I don't think there's anybody who's been in role at Agile Awesome longer than you have. So thank
Except
you.
Maybe you. Yeah,
wow.
That's
I was you've been in the same role.
Our late treasurer and founder. Yeah.
I hate to give Matt credit, but he's been in the Leader SIG for 15 years now.
Yep.
Leader SIG.
Well, he's been in Leader SIG for as long as it's existed, which I think is about 12.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
He was the first person I reached out to. Anyway, inside baseball for all the folks that
have sorry about that.
For going back in time. We do tend to do that. We like this organization. It's been very, very compelling to be part of it. So
I'm reminded, Matt, of your summary. I don't have to go read the book now because I got the AI summary from a natural intelligence named Matt. But as you were speaking, I just kept being reminded of something that I keep coming across in this AI research as well, which is that I remember when I was first a manager, I discovered that the only way to hire the right people was to really form a good, clear idea of who I wanted to hire. And that seems to be the relevant thing here as well. And I'll give you another reference. There's a woman named Sabrina Romanoff. She spells her name strangely. It sounds like Romanoff, but it isn't exactly that. Who does a Substack series. And if you haven't jumped on Substack yet, you might want to take a look. But Sabrina does very much the sort of thing you were describing, where one of her prompts is, I want to, given what you know about me, I want $1 million idea, and I want you to ask me questions until you've got 95% confidence that it's an idea I can carry to fruition. Which
that's amazing.
But that whole idea of having a confidant, using AI as a confidant. I mean, if I could get access to Matt every day, I wouldn't even ask the AI questions. I'd just ask him to shoot holes in my ideas. but yeah, because I know you would, and you could do. I could do the same for you. So there are good natural intelligences out here that can help us with these same kinds of problems if you can find their time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll shut up now.
a lot of the AI solutions, you have to shut off the sycophancy feature. So do have to dial back on that. But I don't know. I need the validation, so I can't do that. That's my final thought.
Need the validation. Okay, I know we as Max Akizi, the now former president, said, we start on time, we end on time. We never do that in this SIG. We start about on time and we always end late. But any other thoughts? Timmy, RG, Ellen, Catherine, John, Ross, Ned, Ben?
No, this has been great. This is my first meeting, and thank you everyone for really enjoyed learning about a lot of new things.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate. Oh, go ahead, Timmy.
Yeah, thanks for facilitating, Matt.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
appreciate y'all. Like we couldn't. Your presence is the best present of all. Time and I mean that what they taught the Transformers was like it's all about attention, right? That was the Google paper. Like, let me bring it in. Like lame joke. But it's like actually getting human beings' attention in this day and age is like one of the hardest things to focus. So it's like having y'all here in this moment is such a gift. So appreciate everybody being here. And yeah, we'll be back in about a month. Keep if you subscribed or you clicked on this thing to get here, you'll probably get a reminder for the next one. We're in the meetup group and we're still looking for a presenter. So if you have an idea, please let me know. I'm matt.roberts at agileaustin.org. Just in case you need that. agileaustin.org. LinkedIn is hard because there's a bunch of Matt Roberts. If you ever look on Amazon, you'll see me. I'm a personal trainer out of the UK and I'm really buff. But no, maybe that's another Matt Roberts. All right. Have a wonderful rest of the summer, everybody, and hope to see you in September or whenever the next time your schedule allows.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
You. Bye.
Everyone.